Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. If this is your first time listening to the Collide Kids podcast, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Be sure to stick around to the end for our kids only segment. That's where every episode there are kids at the end of the show sharing their favorite Bible verse or joke. It's so fun. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. Well, one of the best things about this podcast so far is getting to meet some really awesome people and then introducing them to you. And that is why I am thrilled for you to meet my new friend, Maghon Taylor. Maghon Taylor is on a mission to spread happiness through her handwriting as the founder of All She Wrote Notes, a calligraphy studio based in North Carolina. She's a best-selling author and an award-winning artist, a speaker, and an educator whose life motto is work hard, stay sweet, trust God, and love deep. Her work has been featured nationally with Hallmark, Good Morning America, Medium, and Parade, and she's worked with well-loved brands such as Starbucks, Anthropologie, Michaels, and Dayspring. Her happy hand lettering can be found on gift shop shelves nationwide. She loves bright colors, making people smile, and turning her mistakes into confetti. At the beginning of this month, just a couple weeks ago, she launched her second book, Betty Confetti, which is a story for kids, and we get to hear all about how that book came together and how all of this got started. So here is my conversation with the joyful Maghon Taylor. Maghon Taylor, thank you so much for being a part of the Collide Kids podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am excited to hear your story and all about these cool things that you have going on. Will you just introduce yourself and tell us about who you are and what you do?
Sure, of course. My name is Maghon Taylor. I am the she behind All She Wrote Notes, which is a calligraphy and hand lettering studio based in Elon, North Carolina. I am a lettering artist. I am an author of 2 books, Happy Hand Lettering and Betty Confetti, and I have an online shop where I sell all kinds of products that are on a mission to spread happiness through my handwriting. So gift items and planners and paper goods and just all kinds of fun stuff over there.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear about all this stuff. I love all the colors that you have going on your products and your social media and stuff. So I'm excited. Well, before we get into all of that, I always like to start out with a joke or something fun since this is a podcast for kids. So do you have a fun joke you want to share with us?
Yes, I sure do. Okay, so I love Disney. I'm like a Disney fan. So my jokes are Disney themed, if that's okay.
Yes.
So the first one is, why can't you give Elsa a balloon?
Why can't you give Elsa a balloon? I don't know.
Because she'll let it go.
Over and over again. She'll let it go. Let it go.
And then, why can't Cinderella play soccer?
I don't know.
Because she runs away from the ball.
I love it.
The last one, what did Daisy Duck say when she bought lipstick at the makeup store?
I don't know. What did she say?
Just put it on my bill.
That's perfect. I love those. Those are good. I love Disney and I love jokes, so that's a perfect combination.
Anytime I'm on the ride, the Jungle Cruise, like I get some good ones on there. And then also if you take like one of the ferries back, like to Grand Floridian or whatever, any trip I go, like anytime I hear a joke, I have like an ongoing notes app in my phone to save them all.
Because you never know when you're going to need that.
I'm like giggling and typing to save them. They're so fun.
That's hilarious. Well, tell us about what you do. Like you do calligraphy. What is calligraphy?
So calligraphy is just a fancy handwriting. So it's like a more formal version of like your regular, ordinary, everyday handwriting. And calligraphy is like an old traditional method where you're dipping a metal tip nib into a jar of ink, like John Hancock style. Like the Declaration of Independence is written in calligraphy.
Okay.
And so I learned that art form years and years ago. I loved it. I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be, Kristen. I was really hopeful and hoping that I was going to be naturally talented and gifted at that. But it was really, really formal. It was very elegant. I would look at the paper and not really feel like myself. I would think like, who is this fancy girl that wrote this? Like, this is not me. This isn't for Megan. And so I kind of started adapting using those old traditional tools, but then writing in my own style and in my own handwriting. And I went to a book club with some friends, and I had a friend say, Megan, I've never seen calligraphy look so fun. And that just gave me the permission. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't formal. It wasn't elegant like you're used to seeing. It was more whimsical, and it was more just kind of bouncy and curly and swirly and just more like my personality on the paper. And so my own style was born. I went on to start teaching classes, calligraphy classes, but then also hand lettering. And hand lettering is like an even easier version of calligraphy. It's more casual. Okay. You can do it with a marker. And the book that I wrote, Happy Hand Lettering, goes through step by step and teaches people of all ages how to transform your regular, ordinary handwriting into happy hand lettering. It just makes you more confident. It makes you more excited to write something and share that with your family and with your friends.
Oh, that's so cool. And so you could do it with anything. You don't have to have the special kind of tools or the metal and the ink and the feather. Exactly. You don't need a feather.
Right. Hand lettering, I love to use just a Crayola or a Sharpie. And I would tell people anything with a pointed tip will work well for hand lettering. Markers are my favorite because there's a lot of shading and a lot of like extra steps, and it just comes out easier and prettier if you used a marker because it's going to be like long, smooth strokes instead of like short, skinny, choppy strokes if you were using like a pen or something like that. But it's very approachable. It's very easy. There's not as many rules as calligraphy. Yeah. There's not like a certain specific font that you have to memorize. The way that I teach lettering, it's based on your knowledge of the alphabet. Like you already know A to Z, right? Like you made it this far. Like, there's not any new letters that you haven't heard. I just talk you through how to take what you know and to apply a couple extra steps and treatments to those letters to kind of bring them from drab to fab.
I love that. Do you feel like growing up you had really good handwriting before and then this added to it? Or how was your handwriting when you were a kid?
I would say like yes and no. I always really enjoyed handwriting, but it wasn't something that came natural to me. Like even now as an adult, if I jot down a grocery list or if I put something in my journal, like nobody can read that but me. It's like a secret language. It's so just scribbly and messy and quick. But I remember being a kid and like looking up to certain teachers and like the way that they drew an A or the way that this girl drew a Y in my class. And I feel like over the years, I would kind of like pick and choose and like develop my own alphabet based on certain things that I had seen and that I liked. And I mean, even as far as like different fonts on billboards or different, the way that the D in Disney looks like, I would notice those kinds of things. And I remember being a kid, and I've talked about Disney a lot, but there's a lot of connections to me in that. But I would get the autographs from the characters. Yeah. And I would have those autograph books. And I would come home and trace and practice how Ariel signed her name or how Pluto signed his name. And I was always just so fascinated by that. And so I think there's a lot of ties to what I really enjoyed as a child to what I'm doing as a career now.
That's really cool. And so you started just writing on things. You just started creating these things and they turned into gifts.
Yep.
And then you created a book. Tell us about your book, Happy Hand Lettering.
So I had been teaching in-person lettering classes for about 6 years whenever the book came around. I have been traveling and teaching, groups and just really I had a lot of knowledge on like what questions people had, what obstacles I needed to overcome. And so I turned that in-person class into a book that I could just go into more depth and explain kind of letter by letter, like just with a ton of encouragement, because I think so many times people want it to be perfect. Like they want to learn this one way and they want to be the best that's ever done it. And
Yeah.
that just isn't me. That's not my personality. Like when I go to put my pen to the paper, I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for joy. Like that's a lot
Yeah.
easier to achieve that, because I had a good time making it. You had a good time receiving it. It's not going to win an award. Okay. And so I feel like it's fun, especially in a casual environment, like when people are willing to be an amateur and like willing to try new things, just to approach it from a place of this should just be fun. This should just be something that you can enjoy as a hobby. And so Happy Hand Lettering came out in 2019 and has been a #1 on Amazon. And it's just done such a good job of being able to spread that happiness message even further than I ever could have done on my own. And so that was a tremendous blessing and just such a cool achievement for me to be able to become an author and to put that out into the world.
Yeah. And I love what you said that, it's not about being perfect. It's about bringing joy. I think that should be a motto for anything in life, right?
Yes, it's so true. And I think you don't have to be perfect to be good. Like there's such a big scale. There's such a wide scale of
Mm.
things. And especially if your heart is to bless someone else and to give that gift of your
Yeah.
handwriting, of your time, of your life with another person, like they don't expect perfection from you. Like there's just so much less that you have to worry about. You can really just bless people right where you are, exactly the way that you are.
Yes, I love that. What a good encouragement. So you wrote a book about calligraphy and handwriting, and then you now have a book that's just come out for kids called Betty Confetti. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, of course. So Betty Confetti is my lifelong dream. I've wanted to be a children's book author since I was in the 3rd grade.
Oh,
And it is so cool to see that out into the world and have that happening. She just launched actually last week. So that she is hot off the press, and her story is my story. It's about she's a little girl, she's an artist, and she loves crafting and creating and doodling and drawing, but she has a lot of moments where it just doesn't turn out quite the way she thought it was going to. She had this
yeah.
vision in her head of how she thought it was going to be, and then the glitter sticks together and like ruins the paper. Or she thinks she's going to paint this beautiful rainbow, and then all the colors run together and it's brown. And so there's so many moments in the story where she gets a little bit down and a little bit discouraged because it just wasn't quite what she thought it was going to be. And then one day she gets the idea to run her scrap paper through the shredder in the art class. And when she does that, out comes the most beautiful confetti that you have ever seen. And once our mistakes become confetti, you can't see where we messed up anymore. You can't see the letters we spelled wrong or the words that we wrote ugly. You can't see where the rainbow ran together. Once it's confetti, it's repurposed and it's given a brand new job of making other people happy. And so that story is all about how God loves us through our mistakes, and how if we will let him, he will turn our hard times into really good things, and that our best is good enough for him, that we do not have to be perfect. Like that exact line that I told you earlier is in the book. And this is the story that I wish I could have read as a kid. Like I wish someone had told me this as a child, because I was such a pleaser. Like I was such an achiever. I didn't even just want to make the team. I wanted to be the captain on the team. Like I just strove, like I just had the highest like goals. And it seemed like if I didn't hit that, anything less just wasn't good enough. And it really wasn't until I became a grown-up and just started growing and learning and started having things not go my way and started having things that I didn't get right. And I made big mistakes and things that were hard for me to face, but God never left me. Like in all of those seasons and in all of those circumstances, he could use my hard times. If I was willing, then I could use my experience to turn around and help somebody else. And so
Right.
in the story, Betty encourages her classmates to turn their mistakes into confetti. And I wrote it just as much for the grown-ups reading the story with their kids as I did the kids themselves, because
Yeah.
I see that through like young Megan's eyes. But then as grown-up 34-year-old Megan, I need that message and I need that encouragement as well.
Yes, I love that. I've heard someone say before that God doesn't waste anything. So to turn it into confetti is such a fun way to think about it, that he can take those things that have hurt us, those things that were a mistake or struggle in our life, and he can turn it to bring joy for someone else. And so I love that you've written a book all about that. And it's so fun. Like the pages I've seen, and there's glitter on
Oh,
the
yeah, there's
pages.
glitter. It's got all kinds of fun texture you can touch and feel, and the pages sparkle, and the illustrations are just so colorful and so beautiful. And it was designed around like my life and my story. And I was talking to a third grade class this morning, and so one of the boys were like, "So you are Betty Confetti?" And like nobody's asked me that, and I was like, actually, yeah, kind of." It was just really special and really neat. And my grandmother's name was Betty. And so to be able to honor her in that way, she is no longer with us. She's in heaven. I think she probably got an advance copy. I'm sure God worked that out for her. But it's really cool to share that with her and honor her in that way too.
Oh, I love that. I love knowing that. So you just wrote, I mean, it just came out, it just released. So what is the coolest thing about this book released so far?
It's really seeing what God, like where he's taking her, like even despite the way the world is right now with the pandemic and with COVID. And I had another book launch to compare it to. You know, in 2019, we put confetti all over my car and drove to 12 states and did all these live events and met thousands of people and hugged their necks and signed their books. And I was on the news and I was in magazines and TV. And now none of that, not even one of those things has been able to happen, but we still climbed the charts like anything you've ever seen. Like we were ranked in the same categories as like celebrities that were writing books and having them come out the same day as mine. And I know that isn't from me. I know that that's from God. And I know that he wants that message in as many hands as possible. And I know that there are boys and girls and moms and dads that need to hear that story. And he is moving mountains to be able to get this out there in their hands.
We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. I saw on your social media you posted about how the book was like only second to like a ninja book or something. You got beat by ninjas?
We did. Whenever we were in the number one spot, we briefly got taken down to number two by a book about ninjas, which was very random. But then my people rallied and we got back up there. And so those Amazon rankings, they're fun to watch, but they change hourly. So, you know, you don't build your house in the sand. You enjoy it. You take your screenshot and you roll on. But it's really done very well. And that's so important for an author and for a Christian publisher like Dayspring, who I'm with, because how the book performs online, especially in those very early like pre-orders and those first few weeks, is how larger people like salespeople are going to make their decisions. So it's available at like Barnes and Noble and Christian bookstore and Amazon, but like other people will kind of see that and take note, like Target would make a decision based off how it did. So we're excited to kind of see where it'll go now. And I mean, as we all know, like getting in a source like that, like that's just incredible. So
Yeah.
we really do believe that God's going to do big things like through this little girl and through this story. And we're already prayerful and hopeful about like what could come in the future as far as sequels. And they're making a doll, like a Betty Confetti doll,
Oh, cool.
which we're so excited for. But really just hoping that message will just stick in their head, that if they hear that as a kid and they fail a spelling test one day, or they make art that's ugly, or they, get into a fender bender one day when they're 16, I hope that they can come back to this message and know, like, yes, this is not good. I don't like this. I hate this situation, but God has not left me. Like, I am not alone. He still loves me, even in my mess.
Yes, I think this is such a great message that a lot of people need to hear, and they're going to hear because of this book. So that's incredible. What can you tell us about the process of writing a book? Like, what's the hardest part for you for writing a book?
So it's just like, it takes a long time. So I think you don't realize when you start to get into this how long it actually takes. I wrote the very first draft of Betty Confetti in 2018. So
wow.
it's been 3 years. So it took us a while to get to here. And the draft that I wrote is not the draft that was published. It's much, much better now. And sometimes when you have something that's so personal to you that you've poured your heart and soul into, and you're like, this couldn't possibly be any better. And then you have editors come in and writing coaches come in and people tweak and pick and pull. And truly they made it 1,000 times better. But that can be hard, like on your little pride, to be like, well, I thought that it was pretty good like that. But you just kind of have to open yourself up. I remember specifically with Happy Hand Lettering, so it was kind of nice. I had already done this, and that book is like 200 pages, so it's a lot more.
Yeah.
I kind of already worked out that muscle in my heart of letting somebody else rip it to shreds. But I remember, somebody coming back and giving me feedback, and I'm like, oh, that's so weird they made edits. Like, I bet that was the easiest job in the world, because there was probably nothing they needed to change. And I'm like, okay, there's 30 pages. Like, we're gonna be here for a while. But it's opening your work and yourself up to having somebody help you improve, and just trusting and believing and having faith that like it's going to get better. But at the same time, when there's something that is important to you, and when there's something that you do want to fight for and want to, hold on to, it's kind of knowing like when to pick your battles. Not that they're like battles, but there were certain things that I was like, this is how it has to be. Like this has to be in there. And so we got into that conversation about whether to take Betty Confetti to a Christian publisher and keep God in the story, or whether to take it to a more mainstream audience with just a mistake into confetti message. And I was like, no way, I cannot tell this story without God in it, because that's the story. Like, he's the one that if you have him, if you walk in faith, if you have him in your heart, like that's the reason that none of this stuff is a big deal. Because he's with you. And it's like, I didn't turn my own mistakes into confetti. I mean, I'm a mess. I need him to be able to turn it into something good. And so just conversations and things like that. We had a lot of feedback and input, like with what the characters were going to look like, and making sure that everyone was represented. And there were kids that look like you and me, and there were kids that look like other kids in other races. There's a child in a wheelchair. And like, that was something I really wanted to see. I wanted my son to have a book that's not the first time he's seen that, right? Like, I wanted everyone to be represented. And I really think we tried so hard for that. And I hope that people see themselves in here. And I hope that people see what heaven's going to be like someday with all of us.
Absolutely. I love that. And that is one of the things that stood out to me in the book, is just the different people that were there, and the classmates, the teacher, like everybody just had a different look. And like you said, it just made everybody feel included.
That was important. That that was such a blessing. That was one of my favorite parts, actually, like going through and, giving ideas and feedback for the illustration and kind of hiding little Easter eggs in there that like my fans and my followers will recognize like as parts of my office and my life. But that, if you're just flipping through, there's an illustration of a little blonde-headed, curly-headed boy, and that's my son. And
Oh, that's cool.
The illustrator pictures of him, and so that was cool just to kind of slip that in there. But it's been fun. It's been the joy of my life. If I never got to do anything else in the world, this is it. This is all I've ever wanted. So it's pretty cool. It's awesome.
That's so cool. And I can't wait for our listeners to check it out and learn more about how to get this book in their hands, because I think they need to hear this message. I need to hear this message and just be reminded that God takes our mistakes and he turns them into confetti. Just like you said, we can't do that on our own. We can't do that apart from God. He has to be the one because he's the author of everything that's good, for sure. So I want to ask you something about gifts like you do. Like, tell us about how you got started in that.
Yeah, so I sell, I have a license collaboration, which just means that another much, much bigger company helps produce awesome things with my handwriting on them. And I make all kinds of fun products like planners and notebooks and pens and coffee mugs and all kinds of stuff. And that all started with one set of note cards. I made one set and I wrote them by hand. And for the first year and a half, every single note card I would cut with a paper cutter, I would fold it and score it, and then I would go and letter in calligraphy on the outside, like, hey y'all, bless your heart, love you lots, like whatever the phrase was. And I remember one time I got an order for 200 cards and I cried, both of gratefulness, but then also my hand's gonna fall off, this is not great. And so it was a few years in when I decided to start learning how to digitize my art and kind of teach myself the technology that was needed for me to be able to reproduce it. And so I started with koozies, to drink your canned drinks out of, and then I branched into a few other printed pieces, and then I partnered with Mary Square, and they're a North Carolina company. They show at the Atlanta gift market, and they are just so much better at this than me. They're pros. So I could take something to Kinko's and get it copied and made, and they have manufacturers, that make it amazing and beautiful. And so there are maybe 10 to 15 items that I make in-house on my own. I have produced that are stickers and card magnets and things like that. But then the majority of my current product line is actually through them, and it's stuff that we collaborate on and make together. And so it's awesome, and it's really cool because I don't have a team. I am just one person. I am a party of one, as my business. And they do. And so they can just kind of just have a lot more manpower and resources, and then I'm able to just turn around and buy back however many pieces I want, whatever kinds of things I want to sell from them. And so it's wholesale all around the world, but then it's also on my website too.
That's very cool. And one of the things that I saw that I'm ordering today is it's called the Confetti condiment clip. Can you tell us about this? I love this idea.
Okay, of course, especially because you're in Atlanta. You understand. I'm a Chick-Fil-A super fan. To the max. I eat there 3 times a week. And one of my coolest achievements is I was on the Chick-Fil-A podcast. So that was awesome. Nice. The whole thing. I love Chick-Fil-A. I talk about it all the time. My followers, they all know that story. And one day we were my local Chick-fil-A was doing a promotion to give away condiment clips like that. And I was so excited. I eat sauces like it's my job. I'm a double dipper, always.
Yes.
And I got in line at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark outside, waiting. I had to have one of these. And so I was kind of chronicling it, on my Instagram stories. I was I am such a loser. I cannot believe I'm doing this. I don't know why this is such a big deal to me. And so I got my clip and I was just showing it off and telling everybody all my stories. And that day, the company who makes those clips reached out to me, and they made the Chick-fil-A ones, and they were would you like to partner and make one together? And I was oh my gosh, yes, of course, how fast can we get here? And I thought we'll just do 100, like it'll just be for today. It'll be silly and fun because everyone knew how excited I was. And I've sold like 7,000 of those like, in just a few months. And it just like, it was one of those things, again, like you said, God wastes nothing. Like I was just, was not at all in my plan. That is not at all something that I would have like come up with or figured out. But it was just amazing the way that God worked that out and just the timing of it all.
Yeah.
Right when that happened, it was this summer, and I was in talks of looking at a studio. Like I was looking to move my business. Right now it's at my house, it's above my garage, and my husband's about to kick me out because my garage is filled with boxes, and I'm like I'm taking over. And I was looking to buy or to rent a studio. And so I found one that I wanted to purchase, and just the timing of those car clips, like that ended up making it possible for me to buy that building in cash.
Wow.
And so I never could have like planned or predicted that. Like when you think about, okay, here's what I'm going to sell this year and when, that was such a whim. And that like totally changed the whole trajectory of what we're able to do for the business. And now we're going to be we're building our own studio. We bought an old building that we're restoring and renovating, and then that'll be open up later this year.
That is so cool.
My dad, he is a retired engineer and a retired contractor. And so I bought that building, and he's helping me like build it back. And so he and I are working over there usually 2 days a week, and just kind of, he's reminding me how to use all these power tools and things that we would actually do a lot growing up. We did a lot of Habitat for Humanity work, and I was a part of World Changers, like traveling all around and helping like, just do philanthropy type like house restorations and stuff like that. And so it's really fun to do that now for myself. So it's pretty cool.
That is very cool that you get to be a part of that, and you get a cool hard hat, right?
Oh yeah, the first thing I bought, so the day that I like paid for the building, I bought a pink hard hat. And now I have work boots with like pink laces. So like, and I have a pink tool belt. So if I'm going to be working with power tools and like in sawdust all day, at least it's going to be cute.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, this has been so fun, Megan. I love learning about your business and about your books, and I can't wait to get my copy of Betty Confetti and just to spread this message. I think it's going to be so great for our listeners to hear about this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I like to ask all my guests to share a memory from when they were growing up. So you have something you want to share with us?
I vividly remember carrying around a bag of markers, like ever since I was a little girl. When I was back in the day, the Clinique makeup counter always would give these really cool like pencil cases. And I was way too young to wear makeup. So I would beg my mom to go buy Clinique just so I could have the free gift with purchase, which was the marker bag. And so I would carry that around. It would be filled with markers. And I loved, like, my favorite thing in the world to do was to make signs for my girlfriends and for my classmates. And so I would write, like, if they had a soccer game, like, good luck tonight, or if they were cheering, like, or playing basketball, I would use like all the colors, all the markers, and do what now I know to be hand lettering. But back then I was just really being creative. And so my happiest memories, my happiest times are literally creating art for all of my friends. And I just think that's so cool how God will kind of plant those seeds, like way back in the day. Now I sell those pencil pouches, like the ones that I always like died over and wanted so bad as a kid. I mean, I got boxes and they come in on freight trucks to my house. And so it's very, very cool how he kind of weaved that thread throughout my life. And what I loved then is the same thing I love now.
That's amazing. I love that you basically did your job when you were growing up and you just didn't know it.
For free.
And now you're getting paid for it.
Now everybody wins.
Yes, I love that. Well, this has been so fun, and I am just so excited for you and all that God is going to do to get your message to a lot of people. So congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much. It is a joy and an honor to be able to share it with the world.
Wasn't that so fun? She just has such a bubbly personality. I loved getting to meet her. I love when she shared about learning calligraphy and how sometimes you just have to be willing to try new things and do something that's fun. And it's not always about aiming for perfection. It's about aiming for joy. She said, you don't have to be perfect to be good, especially if it's your heart's desire to bless someone else. I think that's such good encouragement for anything, not just lettering or writing or making things, but also for the rest of our lives. We don't have to be perfect to be good. And if we're just trying to help someone, it still matters. And I loved when she talked about the message of Betty Confetti, how God can take our mistakes and turn them into confetti. God loves us through our mistakes, and if we will just let Him, He can turn our hard times into good things. He can use our hard times to help someone else or encourage someone. And our best is good enough for God. What an incredible message. I hope that you will go out and order a copy of Betty Confetti. It is such a great book, and I think so many people need to hear that message. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. Like I told you before, this is one of my favorite parts of the show, and this is where you get to be on the podcast. So I'm really excited to introduce you to my friend, Noah.
Hi, my name is Noah, and I'm going to say my favorite joke. Why can't the toilet paper cross the road?
Why?
Because it will get stuck in the cracks.
Oh, Noah, I love that joke. Oh, that's a good one. Now I'm cracked up. Get it? Well, if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love to hear your favorite joke. Or maybe you want to share your favorite Bible verse or an encouraging quote that you like. Or you have a question for me or for one of my guests. I am always looking for kids to be on the kids only segment. So just have a grown-up help you go to my podcast website. It's anchor.fm/collidekidspod. And on that page, there's a place for you to leave me a message. If you need more information about this, you can find all of this on my social media pages as well. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with your friends and family. Let them know what you like about it. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that new episodes will automatically load each week into whatever podcast app you're using. And give us a rating and a review on your podcast app. That really does help other people find out about the show so they can listen too. And be sure to head over to Maghon Taylor's website, allshewrotenotes.com, and check out all her awesome products and books. Well, I hope you have enjoyed the show today and maybe been inspired to create something colorful. Share that colorful, joyful thing with others. And if you make a mistake, remember you can always turn it into confetti. Well, in case no one has told you today, let me be the first to remind you, God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between, and all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.